We're live. Hey Scott, it's Scott Jones up in Cleveland, Ohio. We're under COVID-19 quarantine, but I got my package. You asked me to film it, opening it for one human family. I asked you to send me some stickers. It's funny you put on here, your future business partner. Because I keep telling you I'm going to move down there to Key West and join your crew when I retire up here in Cleveland. So I'm opening this up as you requested. Maybe I'll make a little video cameo. There we are. All people are created equal members of one human family. This is all you, Scott. Thanks for sending these our way. Stay safe in Key West, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh yeah, the CLE group is pretty cool, yo. We love you. Oh, that was impressive.
That's our version of the Blue Water Kings!
Living in a world where so much is going on, it's hard to even hear myself think and hear my heartbeat. And I don't think I can handle one more dose of bad news. It just seems like one thing after another, and I'm tired and weary. I call out to you, and it don't matter what time it is. You gone through, and together we rise above it all. You're my reason, you're my peace. The more I breathe you in, the less I need. My heart is beating for you, slow and sweet.
I'm not even sad that I'm completely gutting out this beautiful house that I created over the past year and had some incredible memories with a lot of really eclectic friends and art and lots of everything. I'm surprisingly okay about it. I've prepared for something to eventually happen, and I was smart about it. I saved enough money, and I have decided that I can no longer afford a place on my own without any roommates, and I am going to build out my van and live out of that. So, with that being said, thank you, Bad Boys of Patterson. Thank you for this beautiful fortress that I got to call home for in exactly 1 year. A house that has created so much joy for me and allowed me to express myself through pretty much landscape art. So I appreciate it for what it did for me, but I'm very excited to be on my new adventure. And moving forward, I am now going to build out my van, and you'll be along on the journey the entire time. I gotta grab my camera, right? Because I don't have somebody to edit these films for me. I don't have somebody who's spending thousands of dollars on. Come on, focus! Why is this so hard to focus? Am I doing something wrong here? Anybody has a GH5S, please tell me that I'm doing wrong. It seems like a pretty awesome camera, but I can never, it must be the lens. Must be the lens, yep. Anyways, yeah. I gotta get my camera. That was just some movie magic, making me think that the camera was just randomly gonna stay in there the entire day while I closed the door on it and went back to clean out my house. Whew. That was a pill. That was a big pill to swallow.
So I'm Maureen Dunleavy. I am the director at the Guidance Care Center. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor and have spent my career, so 20 plus years, working in community behavioral health, which includes mental health and substance use. I've lived in the Keys for over 15 years and have been, part of this community through, everything that's occurred during that time.
And have you seen an uptick in calls lately? At people asking for help? What is your experience since this crisis has occurred?
I think in the beginning, everyone's trying to kind of grapple and get settled. Obviously, there wasn't a mass shutdown of everything at one time. So I think what's happening, because it's been done in pieces, is that, people are really focused on trying to figure out the next right thing. And so although we haven't had, a huge influx of calls thus far, we have had a lot of people calling to make sure they have their medications, calling to make sure they have a plan for their, therapy appointments or their case management appointments. And I would expect that, the longer we move through this, the more people may be struggling.
Explain to me the resources that are available to everybody through you.
So the Guidance Care Center is the behavioral health center for the county. We have locations in Key West, Marathon, and Key Largo. We provide the whole realm of services, everything from prevention to our inpatient facility that does crisis stabilization, detox. We also have an assisted living facility for those who are struggling with mental illness. And then, of course, our outpatient centers do everything from psychiatric to case management to therapy. So there's a whole realm of services available to our community.
Cost of your services. So those that are concerned or worried that they will not be able to afford this kind of service, what can they do?
Yes, so the Guidance Care Center is funded through the state of Florida. That's where the majority of our funding comes from. We also are funded by the county, and we accept, obviously Medicare and Medicaid. State funds can only be used for people who are uninsured or underinsured, which means we have a sliding fee scale that goes all the way down to $3. And nobody is turned away for inability to pay. And that's really important for our community, because we know even before this happened, 48% of our community was not insured. We had 50% of our families meeting the criteria for ALICE, which, the United Way had put together, meaning they couldn't even, have their regular living expenses covered. And we know the cost of living is extremely high. So the big takeaway is that we should never allow, fear of being able to pay for something to getting services, because we want to be able to help our community through this crisis.
Depression and anxiety through these moments. What do you suggest people do to cope with these feelings?
Well, we know that anxiety is really high right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, so people aren't sure, obviously, where their next paycheck is going to come from. They're concerned about how they're going to pay their rent. Lots of things are uncertain. So, that kind of makes us all feel unsafe. But there are things that we can do to help increase our sense of safety. So one thing that's really important is to focus on today, not to try to figure out what's going to happen in the next month or the next year, because there are too many things that are fluid and changing at all times.
And then you also talked about planning and preparing. So can you touch on that as well?
Yeah, so we definitely want to be able to plan and prepare for ourselves to get through today, to figure out what the next right thing is, and not to panic. Because, I feel like a lot of the hoarding of toilet paper that was going on was really people feeling unsafe. There's so much that is out of our control that, people were doing anything they could to try to feel safe. And that one thing they could control was how much toilet paper they were buying. And so we need to focus on those things we can control, because there are things we can control: our attitude, our choices, what we choose to do today, what we choose to focus on. And everybody needs to make their mental health a priority, and that includes obviously your physical health, eating well, taking good care of yourself, exercising, but also, what choices are you making in regards to what you're thinking about, what you're choosing to act on, because, it starts to feel hopeless when you think you have no choices.
Let's say that you are somebody who is lonely and quiet and afraid to reach out. What kind of suggestions do you have for them to be able to cope with those feelings?
Well, I think a lot of times, too, there's plenty of things that we can do. So do the things that work for you. That's going to look different for everybody. Some people may find solace in listening to music, in reading a book and getting outside and taking a walk and doing, having fresh air, with connecting with others. So there is no one right way to cope with what you're feeling, but we do know when you're feeling anxious that the way to reduce that anxiety is to focus on the present and do things that are going to help you right now.
Yeah, I know that when I was going through my real high bouts of anxiety, I had to get out of bed immediately. I would be like shaking, like the inside of my, like right here, my arm would just be like on fire, and then my cheeks would absolutely be on fire as well. And I knew immediately I had to leave the house, and I was very thankful that I had a friend named John who would take me on a bike ride to Baby's Coffee. And we did that every single morning, and we didn't really talk much about my feelings because I didn't want to. He knew what I was going through but didn't make conversation of it. But he knew that getting me outside just to go and do something was enough to get me through that morning.
Yeah, you bring up a really great point. So, one of the ways that we can feel safe is by having a normal routine.
Yep.
So, that may or may not include talking about your feelings. But what you just described is creating a new normal routine. You got up, you rode your bike, you had something you could count on, because that's what we want. We want something to count on. There's so many things that are uncertain. We want to be able to know what's going to happen today and how we're going to deal with things, and we do have some control over that.
Yeah, so control is definitely the main focus.
Okay, this is a really important point that, connecting to others, and thank goodness in today's society we have Zoom and we have FaceTime, and we've got all these different ways we can actually see people we care about. Because that checking in on people, whether we know them or not, really also has a secondary effect in that it helps us.
Yeah.
That sometimes the best thing we can do to, get out of our own head or get away from our own worries is to check in on other people. And it's okay to say, how are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And if we're worried about someone feeling suicidal, we should not be afraid to ask someone if they're feeling suicidal. People are afraid. People are afraid to say those words, and we shouldn't be. Our brochure is available on our website that can be downloaded.
Oh, wonderful.
And those types of things as well. So, or they can be, picked up at the office. There is a lot of things, written materials available.
Let's touch on the anxieties that people have about unemployment registration.
Well, I think, again, we have to focus on what we can control. So what we can control is how often we're contacting the unemployment office, the different methods we're trying to get the information. They just recently now have the form that you can download and mail in. It's available also at all of the libraries that you can pick up if you don't have a printer or a way to print it out. So I think, again, anytime we have an anxiety, we need to look at what piece of this can I control? Because we always have choices, whether it feels like it or not. We always can choose, our attitude, our own behavior, and our response to something.
Okay, so the digital toolkit for the National Association for Suicide Prevention. Can you explain that to me?
So the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a wonderful website with a lot of resources, and they actually came up with a toolkit for COVID-19, which is available online, or even you can access it from your phone. I actually saw it originally on Facebook, so it's also been sponsored there. They have some wonderful information and articles and YouTube and talking points, just for people to familiarize themselves with, how to talk about mental health, very, very much like we're talking about it today.
Yeah.
And focusing on, obviously what we can control. Because obviously, the longer we go through this period, people are going to feel despair. They may feel hopelessness, and it's really important that, we don't stay stuck with our own thoughts in our head about that, because it's not true. This too shall pass. We will get through this. We're going to have to develop a new normal, and we're going to have to cope with this while we're going through that and utilize the resources that are available. All of us obviously are going through this, so you're not alone. That our professionals, our residents, our families, are all feeling anxiety and feeling uncertainty. It's really important not to make that worse by, first of all, staying in your head and just ruminating thoughts over and over again. I would say that's a really dangerous place to be, even for myself. And that we have to be careful how much we expose or how much we read on the news or in social media, because not all of those are facts.
Yep.
Our feelings are not facts.
Yep.
And so we need to be able to cope with that. And there are things we can do that are either going to make it worse or make it better. But the key point is it's not hopeless. Our 24-hour crisis line is available for anybody who is having a behavioral health crisis and feeling anxious or thinking of suicide or is concerned about relapsing, is overwhelmed, really at the point where they're at the end of the rope. That number is 305-434-7660 and press 8. Also, like I said, that we have all of our offices are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. People can call the offices, they can walk in, and no one should be afraid to come get help. Because they're worried about how are they going to pay for it. We are going to help you regardless.
Okay.
And we don't want to lose any more lives in our community. Your life is important. And so we want to be able to connect people to help because we can get through this. If people are feeling hopeless, if they're feeling suicidal, if we can connect them to help, or we can kind of walk somebody through that, things will get better. It's not hopeless because we've got lots of people who are living proof that even though they were feeling suicidal or feeling desperate, that they got through that time and things got better. That's the key point, is to be able to get to reach out to each other, to connect.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to talk about is if people have the ability to donate.
So the Guidance Care Center is a 501(c)(3). We're a nonprofit, local, and as I said, our role is to provide mental health services to those who are uninsured or underinsured, and we run out of money every year. So they certainly can make a donation to the Guidance Care Center, and that information and addresses are available on our site.
On my website, every week there's a charity organization that they get their own page on my website, and what I do is I ask people if they're able to donate to this cause. So this Friday I was going to choose your Guidance Care Center as
Great.
the charity for which would be the week, but I'm going to make it the entire month of April, or maybe indefinitely until we get through this.
The reason that I'm so passionate about community mental health is, I don't want to lose any more lives. There is hope. There is a way to get through this. I shared with you that I have personal and professional, experience for losing people that I loved who have died by suicide.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that all of those situations were hopeless and that there wasn't another way.
Yeah.
And I'm very concerned about our community because, after Hurricane Irma, we saw the desperation of people who had no housing to live with, whose jobs were on hold, who, couldn't figure out how to rebuild. And we've seen our suicide rate be the highest in all of Florida. And so I worry about what this will be like for all of those residents who are still struggling, because they are still struggling.
So I see Steve Willis. He's become one of my closest people in this town. We now have conversations about my business. I call him, I'm like, all right, I need a session. Let's not talk about my feelings. I need to know, what do you think about this business plan? That's literally, and him and I are we're homies. It's so cool. I always told myself this, whenever I get out of this and I'm able to think for myself properly, which is now it's starting to happen, I want to be a mental health ambassador for the Florida Keys. What would you like to tell the world about the Florida Keys?
The Florida Keys is a very unique place and a very magical place, I think. I know a lot of people strive to come to the Keys thinking it'll be like they're on vacation, and it's just very unique. I hail from the Midwest, and to come and see how the community pulls together, how we support each other, the resiliency of people working together to solve a common problem. That's something you don't see in bigger cities. So what I love about the Florida Keys is not only that I don't have a huge commute and we've got the water and the beautiful, scenery, but that there is this culture and this kind of initiative to all help one another. And it doesn't matter if, you know the person in your building or not. There's this kind of general sense of camaraderie and, of family.
All right, Maureen, I really appreciate your time. Can I get an air high five from you?
You betcha.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. I want to thank Maureen for taking the time to chat with me. Maureen, that was fantastic. I really, really appreciate your time. And just to sum it up, guys, we are in control, all right? If we need to go for a walk, it's okay to go for a walk. Don't stick yourself inside your house all day long. Make sure you wear your face mask. Stay within a safe distance from everybody. Just do not forget to wear your mask. Make it fun. Decorate your mask. Enjoy it. Enjoy those times with people that you love most. And if you are feeling lonely, please know that you are not in this all by yourself. There are so many people that are willing to help, even if you do not know who they are. And the beauty of the Florida Keys is that we are one human family and we want to help each other out. The website is becoming more and more resourceful. Ami and I are working on this site to include a calendar to let you know when I'm going to be hosting Zoom meetings, if you would like me to present any kind of topics to a group of people as a public speaker, please let me know. I'd be totally down to help you with that. We do not have to talk about money. Let's just get it done and take care of each other. Be safe, have fun, and I will see you tomorrow. And remember, a stranger is just a friend that you haven't met yet. Okay, now I'm done.
Lifted me